my goodness. So if you are a first-time mom and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't even know. I don't even know what I don't know. I seriously do not think I could have gone all the way without in terms of unmedicated birth. Not enough people talk about how important that mindset is. I had a lifelong fear of birth. Unmedicated birth, natural birth is not something that you just wing. Like you cannot just go in cold. So basically, if I can do it, you can do it too. You really can. All right, people, we are finally doing this video I've been wanting to do for so long. I've been like, I need to do it. I can't keep putting it off. But it is hard because it's so daunting because there's just so much when it comes to birth. It's hard to encapsulate, to describe, but I also just want to give like the realistic version because when I was pregnant, I watched so many videos, like countless videos about people talking about birth techniques, breathing techniques, natural birth, their birth stories, what to do, what not to do, don't do this. There's an overwhelming amount of how-tos and just the glossy version of like, oh, it was so beautiful and I felt so complete when my baby came. It's very easy to talk about the highs. It's very easy to post about the highs, which I have also done too. And it's hard to talk about the hard parts and the messy parts, the not so Instagrammable parts. So this is going to be the realistic version of unmedicated hospital birth from my personal experience. Everyone's experience is different. 7 key things that I believe, looking back as a first-time mom, giving birth for the first time, doing it unmedicated in a hospital setting. I prepared so much for it, and I'll tell you how. I'm just honestly shocked and concerned for other first-time moms who are expecting, asking me for tips and stuff. I usually ask them back like, so what have you been doing to prepare, just so I don't tell you, the same information you already know. I think there's just 2 ball camps. What I'm hearing, one is very cognizant of like the preparation it takes. The other is, and I feel like it mind boggled me, how people are kind of winging it. They're just like, oh, I'm just gonna try to do it unmedicated for as long as possible. I haven't really looked into it much, and they're like coming up a few weeks until they're due. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I try my best to give them what I can and, the top things. And this video is going to include those top things. But I just want to say, this is why I'm so passionate about this video. Unmedicated birth, natural birth is not something that you just wing. Like you cannot just go in cold without doing the prep work, because I feel like the analogy is like going into the Olympics without practicing, without a coach, without taking it seriously, expecting to win a medal, to even finish whatever your event is, and expecting to make it through without practicing, preparing, learning about it, getting coached, hearing from other people who've done it before. And I say Olympics because I was thinking the mini version I was gonna say is like running a marathon without practicing for the marathon and just like going, like I've never run a mile before and I'm gonna run like 10 miles. That's not even an equivalent because it really is so intense. And people don't talk about that. You see on social media and you're just like, oh, seems like they just popped out another baby so effortless. I've seen a lot of birth videos and birth photography, and those are so beautiful. And thankfully I had a doula who helped capture some little video clips and photos as well from our birth of our daughter. And I really want to do an in-depth birth story. It just, again, it's like so hard to do it justice, but I will do it. I will do it. I just need to like have the time and space to like sit down and talk through all the nitty-gritty details and what actually went down. So you see these like glossy photos and it glorifies it and it like shows the beautiful parts, which is amazing because birth is so beautiful. More than physical, it is also spiritual. It's transformative. It changes you as a person and you and your spouse, whoever's in the room with you. There's just like, it's such a magical, special time that it's hard to put into words, but it's also like when you're in it, it's a haze. I guess it's a little bit like if you get married and like the wedding day, things are hectic and things kind of feel like a blur. And then it's not until afterwards you look at the photos and you kind of recollect and remember like, oh, it was so nice and beautiful. Everything's better, in hindsight, more clear. In a separate video, I'm going to talk more about why I chose a medicated birth, but just for very brief context, it's important to know I had a lifelong fear of birth. I literally, when I was a child, I would tell my mom to pray with me before bed that I would never get pregnant and never give birth because I was so traumatized based on these depictions of birth I've seen in movies or heard about. That's just to give you context. So basically, if I can do it, you can do it too. You really can. I literally thought it was not possible for me. I was like, I don't know, just like the idea of like going through something so intense, and like the pain, how my pain tolerance in real life is so low. Like I like being comfortable, you know. I can barely handle when it's like 90 something degrees out. But yeah, I did it. It was the most empowering experience. That and surviving the newborn trenches afterwards, which you can watch my other videos on my channel, have been the top two most empowering things in my life. After I gave birth, I was like, oh my gosh, I can take over the world. I can do anything. But yeah, it's not easy. And I also recovered quite quickly, like physically. I had a minor first degree tear. I was able to walk, be up and about very easily. I took a shower that night. I also was able to feel just like the emotions and not be numbed out and disconnected from what was going on. So there can be a lot of benefits to it. And I think if you ask majority of women who have gone in, you know, prepared and done the work to deliver naturally, like almost everybody would say they would also do it again and highly recommend. So yeah, it's weird because it's like, why would you go through, it's your body is biologically wired to make you forget how hard it is exactly in the moment so that you will produce more children. But also it is incredibly empowering. If I have so many reasons, again, I'll detail out more of them in a separate video because there is quite a backstory to it too. Just know that it is very empowering, but at the same time, not to measure yourself whether you go through to the end without, you know, an epidural or not, because that's not a measure of you as a person. And it is unfortunately just a human tendency for us to judge ourselves or feel disappointed in ourselves or say like, how come I can't do it and that person did? And everyone's experience is so different, and it's a very personal decision as well. And so there's so many factors that come up: baby's position, you know, health issues and conditions, everything is just so individualized. So yeah, again, I think it's so easy to get caught up in our heads like, oh, did I do something wrong, or did I not have enough faith, or did I do this wrong or that wrong? And it's like, at the end of the day, you really have to tap into that side of surrender. Like, don't be married to your birth preferences. That's why I call it preferences, not a plan, because people say, oh, have a birth plan. Yeah, have a plan, but I titled my plan birth preferences because it's like what you would ideally want, but you also, you know, honestly have to be open to things might not go your way. Just like life, a peek into parenthood as well, especially with a newborn. In my opinion, it's really worth it, but also go into it with the right mindset too of, it's not life or death or end all be all if you choose one way or the other, and nobody's better than another for whatever kind of birth they have. So these are what I call the 7 keys to unmedicated birth. You don't need necessarily all 7 of these keys, but I highly recommend them, and I'll explain why. Number 1, mental conditioning. We as human beings, I learned throughout my process, and I now can confirm after going through my experience, your mind and your body and your spirit are all connected. I think as a society, we emphasize the birth part of like, you know, the breathing and, you know, the labor positions, the exercises you should do, and those are all great, but don't forget about your mind and about your spirit, because that is also, I don't know if it's how accurate this is, but I heard from other resources when I was studying up for and preparing for my birth, 90% of it is your mind. 90%. And I agree. I'm not a fit athletic. I was never good at sports. I hated PE, you know, as a kid. I don't consider myself like an active person. I mean, I've definitely gotten more active and healthier throughout the years, especially after marrying my husband, who's very healthy. But I don't consider myself like a gym buff or like a fitness influencer people. I'm just a regular person who tries my best. Yeah, so your mind and your body are so connected. So if you expect to go into birth not training your mind, I mean, even professional athletes can attest to this. Olympians can attest to this. You can see them before they go into their game, like doing whatever intense thing they're doing. A lot of them are like hyping themselves up. They're like talking out loud to themselves, affirming themselves. Their coaches affirming them. You know, it's so much of it is like your belief systems, what you're telling yourself. You know, if you even have any doubt in your mind, like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, I can't do this, the more you think of that, it gets harder and harder and harder. So it really is so important to train your mind, which is tied with your spirit. Like, I'll explain more in detail what that looked like for me, but your subconscious beliefs, your subconscious thoughts, these things are triggering your body to respond in a certain way. You know, you love pizza, you had a great history with pizza, you loved it as a kid. And so when you see pizza, what's your mouth doing? Drooling. Like your eyes are probably dilated, you know, you're getting excited. Your body is preparing to eat that pizza because it's like, I love pizza. I'm ready for it. On the flip side, maybe in your first trimester of pregnancy, like me, did not like broccoli. My nausea got so bad with broccoli. Even like second trimester, third trimester of pregnancy, whenever I saw broccoli, my body was like, oh no, like rejecting. Like I wouldn't get hungry for it. I wouldn't salivate for it, you know? And so that's just like a very minor example, but it just goes to show like your body is trained based on your past experiences, your relationship with something, how you view something, your thoughts about it prepares a physiological response. Why that's important is because when it comes to birth, it's the same thing. So important to know, because looking back, I'm so glad I conditioned my mind, I trained my mind, because if I had not done that, as soon as I felt those like intense, and I'm going to say the word, I know it's like you kind of avoid when I was preparing for birth, I didn't want to say the word pain, as more like surges or like waves, but I'm just gonna be realistic and say it's also it's pain. but the thing is, you train your mind to not resist pain so that your body also doesn't resist it. And so it's so important to like train your mind, be like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. My body was made for this. And I spoke scripture over myself, spoke affirmations, like I was made for this. My body was made for this. What's impossible for man is possible for God. Doing a detox of my mind on a fundamental level. And so I would listen to these tracks I use Christian hypnobirthing, and it sounds kind of woo woo, but it's not. It's just literally what I'm saying, like affirming yourself with truth of like, I can do this. I can do hard things. I'm going to meet my baby soon. Every surge, every wave brings me closer to my baby. I am excited to meet my baby. You're just telling yourself all these things that empower you and affirm you and encourage you that you can keep going. And I literally listen to all these tracks, not all the time, but you know, when I could, when I had the chance, maybe like once in a few days. Give me a second, my baby is fussing from her nap. Okay, we have a special guest. I haven't featured her in many of my videos recently, but yeah, she is huge compared to the last time she did. She just woke up and she is almost 5 months next week. Do you want to help me explain how you came to be, how you came into this earth? Yeah, so hypnobirthing, I did Christian hypnobirthing. I am a Christian and it is very Bible based. I mean, it's spirit led. It just conditions your mind. That's what you want to do, is just condition your mind with truth, with affirmations, basically hyping yourself up, and it takes time. So ideally doing this at least a few months before you're due. I tried to do it throughout my pregnancy, but I did it mostly in my third trimester, but also some in my second and barely in my first, because I was so out of it in my first trimester, but it was all worth it. Yeah, and I also did the Christian hypnobirthing course that teaches about the physiological, you know, process of birth, which I highly recommend. Just taking any kind of like birth course that teaches you what actually happens, because that way when you're going through it, you're not like freaked out, like what's happening? Why am I feeling this? You're informed about what's happening, and so you're more calm and collected versus freaking out, being like there's so much that you just don't know. Number 2 is related to it, and it is learn to relax. Learn to relax, specifically when things are not comfortable. And so I don't know how effective it really is, but I've heard of people like holding ice cubes to kind of train themselves. And I heard mixed things about it. Like, you know, it doesn't really do, you know, what it's supposed to do. But I honestly think my next time, if God willing, we have another, I want to do that, because I realize while in labor, it's so much easier said than done. I'm like, okay, ride the waves, don't resist the pain, just go with it. Like that's what I told myself in my mind leading up to birth. But when you've never done it before, you do not know how intense it is. You do not know what to expect. And so it's next time I will intentionally put myself in physically uncomfortable situations to train myself to relax and let go and not resist, because that was the hardest part for me, learning to relax when everything in my body and my mind is like, oh, this hurts. But what really helped, you know, and what helped me get through it despite feeling that way, was breathing. Okay, breathing is key. If you don't do anything else, you know, physically, learn about breathing techniques like box breathing, J breathing. I mean, there's like so many breathing. Just look up Bridget Taylor Built to Birth on YouTube, and she talks a lot about great breathing techniques. She demonstrates it, and also horse lips. Like that. When you relax your jaw and your mouth, it also relates to your pelvic area that helps it relax and let go. In that way, you're actually helping yourself more easily, go with your surges and the waves and not resist. I really feel like all these techniques, as I was talking about them, is actually very important for not just giving birth, but becoming a mom, becoming a parent. The first few months, especially as a new mom, a new parent, usually things are crazy. Things feel crazy. Your hormones are all over the place. All your systems and routines are completely flipped up, just upside down. You don't know what to do. And there's like so much. And learning to relax is like a huge part of this process that I did not know how to do, because I was like in panic mode, like what is going on? If you, again, watch my other videos to hear more about that. But what I've learned, and thankfully, after a significant turning point with my previously colic reflux baby, I finally was able to learn to relax more and breathe better and be more mindful of how my body's feeling. If I'm tense and stressed and anxious, like she feels it too. Your baby will feel it too, and then vice versa. And so it just helps. I'm just saying this because it's important to know what comes after birth. That's what my series Reality After Birth has been all about. But even during birth, I recognize it's all a preparation for what comes after as well. One more quick thing about breathing: it helps you regulate your nervous system so that you're not tensed up, you're not freaking out, you're not trying to tighten, you're learning to release and let go and allow your body to push your baby out without you resisting the opposite way. Number 3, physical prep. So I've mentioned this a little bit, but it is important. It is an important aspect. It just isn't the only, I would dare to say, main part. So I did walking, I tried to take at least one walk, every day or every other day. It was hard at times though. So don't feel bad if you can't. Just do your best, because you're exhausted, you're big, it's hot outside, your body temperature is higher than usual. Yoga ball, I also did try to do that when I could. But again, just don't be a stickler about like, oh man, I'm not doing this enough or that enough. Don't over push yourself. You want to be in a state where you are relaxed, but not just like not doing anything at all. You want to push yourself just enough and like learn to listen to your body. Again, prep for after giving birth. I also did a prenatal yoga class that my doula suggested, and I had heard other people suggest as well. It was helpful in terms of learning about different birth positions and the stretches that you could do during labor and stuff, and actually like practicing it in person rather than like watching it in a video. But also the biggest benefit of the prenatal yoga was connecting with other moms in the same stage. We were all expecting soon or within kind of the same few months time frame, and then also just having a space to all share like what are you guys feeling and different anxieties and like different ideas for how to solve, how to address those things. I had reservations about it first. I as a Christian, I want to make sure also it's not like new agey and inviting other spirits that I don't believe is good. The place I went to also offered prenatal partner yoga classes, so my husband and I went to a few of those, which was really helpful because the male counterpart, oftentimes they don't have a space like women often do to kind of talk about these things and process their emotions and connect with other soon to be dads and have this basically like small group safe space to share what they're feeling, but also questions and concerns to learn from each other and who was instructing. But also really importantly, they taught how to, different positions and stretches to help the moms when in labor or before labor, counter pressure movements and things like that. So you also get to connect with your partner, kind of check in with each other and practice that bond, that partnership that you will need when it comes to going into labor. Don't overdo the physical aspect. Just do what your body can handle. A mistake I did initially, and then I changed after I talked to my doula, was I thought, oh, I gotta get like super fit. Before I got pregnant, I was going to HIIT classes, like high intensity interval training classes with my husband, a few times, maybe like 1 or 2 times at least a week. And then during my first trimester, I just stopped working out because I was so out of it. I was just on this couch all day and I was like so sick, so tired, could not not function. My husband had to do like all the work. That's also again training for postpartum. But yeah, I felt really uncomfortable with it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm failing at my duties as the wife. I was like, okay, I got pregnant. Like, it's time to get super fit after I feel better after my first trimester. So my beginning of second trimester-ish, I started going back to HIIT classes. I told my doula, and then she's like, I would recommend something like lighter prenatal yoga or Pilates, or just something that's not so intense unless you are used to doing like intense working out, because basically you don't want to shock your body with something so different and then your body's not used to it, and it's like, you know, it's using limited resources to grow your baby, and then if you're putting too much strain on it, it could cause complications. And it made a lot of sense to me because I was already big or concerned, like, are these exercises potentially risky? And not all trainers are also trained in knowing like alternative exercises for pregnancy at different stages. When I was working out in those classes again, I was like, oh yeah, unless I really know and I'm sure what positions are okay and safe, like I actually feel kind of anxious and uncomfortable just doing these potentially risky things. And I'm like, is this okay for the baby? Like, will it hurt her development or worse, you know? And then the last part of the physical prep, again, I don't know how effective this is, but I would rather do it and believe I'm doing all that I can versus not do it. And I ate dates at the end of my third trimester, near the end, for the last few weeks. I made date bark, which was really good. Dark chocolate with almond butter, some salt, and on days you spread them out, you put them in the freezer. They were so addicting. Don't overdo it because, you know, you want to watch your blood sugar. I had a history of borderline pre-diabetic, and so I wanted to avoid spiking my blood sugar too much, but it was hard when the date bark is so good. Maybe I should link, I don't know if I even have the recipe. I just used ChatGPT to look up like a date bark recipe, and it was so good. So can't recommend enough. It's supposed to soften your cervix to help baby come out more easily. I don't think there's like hard evidence on it, but I mean, it helps supposedly a lot of people. And for me, I only had a minor first degree tear down there. So was it the dates or not? I'm not sure. And it's almost near impossible to truly A/B test this because every birth has so many different factors. The other thing is raspberry leaf tea, same thing. A lot of people say it can help, and I personally don't like tea. So I ordered these raspberry leaf supplements from Amazon. Did it help? Did it not? Unsure, but why not pull like all the things you can, right? So, okay, number 4 is education on what's happening biologically. I already talked about this in a previous one, but I just can't emphasize it enough. If you don't know what's going on, it's going to be so confusing when the nurses, if you are giving birth at a hospital setting. It was a great overall experience at that hospital that we did the birth at, but they did ask, and I believe this is probably the case at most of the hospitals, they kept asking questions like when I was like in between contractions or even sometimes during contractions, and you're like so in the zone. It's like hard to know what are they even asking, like making a decision on the spot. It's like so hard. And so the more you can become informed about the potential questions they'll ask and what they mean, what that implies, what are the potential risks and consequences. There's an anagram, I'm forgetting what it is now, but basically it helps you to kind of think about the questions you can ask them, like what are the risks, what happens if I don't do this, and what are the consequences. But it's also, I feel like it's hard to, even if you have that framework to ask the nurses, it also just depends on the nurse, like if they are unbiased or in a bad mood, or, you know, like are they supportive and believing in you for your natural birth, or do they just want to like get out of there, you know? So I had a lot of skepticism after hearing a lot of horror stories about people's hospital births. Their healthcare staff was just not empathetic and not supportive of their birth preferences. Do your research as much as you can. Don't overwhelm yourself. I think I overwhelmed myself by trying to be like, I need to like be an expert at all things birth, and it's like, it's just not possible. There's so many things that you're still not gonna exactly know because you're brand new to this. It's like you're a freshman in college trying to like understand everything in a master's degree level, you know, like you're new to everything. So you can try your best, but there's still going to be inevitable gaps of knowledge. And that is why number 5 is related to this. A doula. I didn't know how significant of a role a doula played. Oh my goodness. So if you are a first-time mom and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much I don't even know what I don't know, I'll share a longer story in another video. I had a lot of doubts about getting a doula for a variety of reasons and things that led up to it. By God's grace and his divine wisdom, I got a doula. I found one. She was amazing. I felt really supported, cared for. Like, she's on my side. She like can advocate for me. She's experienced, helped so many other women go through birth and delivery and also navigate that first week, especially after coming home from the hospital. Again, refer to my other videos about how intense that is, and she saved my life. Doulas are basically there to support you practically and emotionally in terms of preparing for your birth, your labor, and it makes a huge difference. I think a lot of people, and this is kind of what I was thinking too, was like emotional support. I don't know. My husband emotional supports me. I can, I'm a pretty strong person mentally, but birth is one if not the most vulnerable time you may ever be as a person, as a woman. And having somebody who sees you in your mess and you can count on and also can help you navigate those decisions I was just talking about in terms of when the hospital staff asks you questions or tells you to do something and you're like, oh, I don't know about this. And I just know, looking back, if I did not have my doula there, if she was not there, me and my husband would be like, what do we do? I don't know. And like that worry and the fear will build up and make it harder to go through with it. So my husband, I mean, he is the best. He's so supportive. He was such a great, birth partner, they call it, but it was his first time too. So he's inevitably also nervous. I'm also just like, I don't know what to expect really. Like it could go, anything could happen. And even my mom told me when she heard that I got a doula, she was like so relieved because she said, she's only had me and she's like, the only time I've given birth was 30 years ago. And it's like, she didn't know anything either. And she got an epidural. She said she learned breathing techniques in one class, but you forget everything afterwards when you're in the moment. So yeah, my mom said she would have been even more nervous and anxious if she had been in a room with me. And I was like, yeah, that was one of the reasons why I considered getting a doula. I was like, really I don't know. It's not really a popular thing that I hear about that people say you need. So that's why I'm emphasizing in this video. It makes a big difference. I seriously do not think I could have gone all the way without my doula, like in terms of unmedicated birth and also navigated pregnancy without overwhelming anxiety, fear, nervousness, questions, just feeling so lost and confused, and so many questions that you're like, who do I ask? Who would be the best to ask? Who actually knows about all these things? And a doula does that for you. So highly, highly recommend. Number 6 is involving your birth partner. Oftentimes will be your spouse, significant other. And I think that is so key. You hear about it, but I just want to emphasize it made all the difference. Again, without my doula and my husband there, oh my gosh, they made all the difference. Again, you're an Olympian and you have a coach cheering you on, that's the doula. You also have your family there supporting you. That's like, it gives you that fire and fuel to keep going in the face of what feels nearly impossible, what feels so hard. He spoke affirmations over me. We took classes together about birth, about preparing for baby, and I did the Christian hypnobirthing course myself, but then I did it again with him just so he knows what to expect and his role to play. The role of the birth partner is very significant because it's like the moral support, the voice that reminds you of all the affirmations when you're doubting yourself, when you're like, I don't know if I can do this. What am I doing? Maybe I should just give in. Maybe I should just stop and give up, And no, he's like, you got this. You are strong. You are capable. You can do this. You can do that. And he just kept speaking that over me, not like nonstop, but just like being in the moment with it and also helping hold me and hold my hand. That made a big difference. So I just can't emphasize enough the emotional, spiritual support. He also prayed over me in the hospital when I was like, oh my gosh, like I need God help me. God help me. I cried out for God, like especially close to the end, and him just being there with you. It's not just what you need, but it's also like so beautiful just going through that together, knowing that together you made it possible for your baby to come out into this world. That's just priceless. It's priceless. And he also cut the cord as well, cut her umbilical cord. Last but not least, number 7, actually like 7.5, like 7 and another note that's I just have to mention because it's so imperative. It's so important. Number 7 is listening to positive birth stories. The purpose of it isn't to listen to birth stories because you're like, my birth has to look like that. The point is to build your faith. It's to build your belief in what's possible and what you can can do and what could happen, because there's so much of the opposite in the world where everyone's like, oh my gosh, it was a terrible experience, because they had their own experience. And oftentimes, frankly, it is because people just don't know that they need to do the preparation before birth. And so hence they're like screaming, tensing up, you know, not breathing. And it's kind of like you drove a car for a first time and then you crashed. And then now people are like asking, oh, how's driving? And then you're like, it's terrible, don't do it. When you hear a lot of people's experiences and stories from potential ignorance or just like other uncontrollable factors that you just ultimately can't control, it can really scare you and cause fear and cause you to doubt, like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's too idealistic to like pray for a supernatural empowered birth and like a faith-filled birth and peace-filled birth. I prayed for supernatural empowered, faith-filled, peace-filled, joy-filled birth, because I was like, that is all the opposite things that I've heard about birth, or my picture growing up about birth. And I just felt so much conviction from the Lord about believing in what I thought was impossible. And so I listened to these amazing positive birth stories, and it really helped build my faith. However, the caveat with this, and it's very, very important, so important, because you don't want to hinge your peace and your happiness on this like magical, idealistic, like everything must go this way, otherwise, you know, I'm not gonna make it. It's just so easy to be like, okay, if I do ABC, I'm going to get XYZ result, because so much in life is like that. Like, oh, follow this formula and then you will get this result. I know this sounds contradictory because I just said how important preparation is. It's okay. Gosh, we're almost done. The point is to prepare with an open hand, to believe in full faith and press into full surrender. It is the hardest spiritual work that you will do. I mean, one of the hardest, at least for me, because it feels like the opposite. You find yourself internally wrestling with, I don't want to get my hopes up and then be disappointed. You know, I don't want to like fully pray about this and believe in this and then have it not come true, and then it's gonna like hurt my faith. It's so easy for us to limit our faith to protect ourselves. And that's what I was finding myself wrestling with constantly in my, especially my third trimester, but throughout my pregnancy. But it really is such an important spiritual work of learning faith and surrender hand in hand, building the faith and belief. You can do this. I got this. I can do all things. But also surrendering, knowing that there is ultimately so much you cannot control. Who's going to be in the room? What's going to happen? What's your blood pressure going to be? Like, how's baby's position going to be? You know, there are so many things you can try to do. I've heard a lot of stories from women who had traumatic birth stories because they hinged so much hope and almost like subconsciously their okayness on like, I must have a birth like that looks like this, that looks like that person's, otherwise I did something wrong, and feeling like a failure, feeling like, why did God forsake me and not answer my prayers a certain way. On the flip side, I've heard from other moms, they did pray for a specific kind of birth and then it happened. Like, they actually was like, oh my gosh, God actually met my specific desires for this kind of thing to happen or that thing to happen. And so it's not a measure of what you did right or wrong, whatever happens during your birth. I really believe God is a good God and he's sovereign and he knows exactly what we need to go through. And I had to process a lot of this through my newborn and postpartum experience that was so hard. Not enough people talk about how important that mindset is to come out the other side. It's messy. It's really messy because you just don't know what's going to happen. You might even, ideally this doesn't happen, but I've heard of other people, you know, getting emergency C-sections or having to be induced and other things that it's just, if it were up to most people, they wouldn't ideally want. But even though that happened, like, they survived and things can come up, but God will sustain you. God will bring you through whatever he decides to allow you to go through, or the experience that he allows you to go through. So definitely a very spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, relational thing birth is. Why did I just sound like Yoda saying that? I hope this video kind of alludes to the reality of things, that it's not a walk in a park. It's one of the hardest things you will ever do. Every person's experience is different. Do not measure yourself or measure God based on, you know, why didn't I have that person's experience, because you're just gonna trap yourself in misery. I want to encourage you, if you are expecting and you're just preparing for birth, I just want to encourage you, just press into what I said, like full faith, full surrender. What does that mean for you? Where do you struggle with? What are you struggling to believe? Is there any barrier that's holding you back? Are you sensing any tension? Just really face those hard questions in yourself and bring them, if you are a believer, bring them to God. That is part of the process that he's trying to bring you through in pregnancy to prepare you for parenthood, because that happens all the time where you're like, I believe, but also I need to surrender more than ever before, because there's so much you can't control. Yeah, let me know below if you are a first-time mom or just a mom in general. Let me know. Any of these tips relate to you? How was your experience? What would you add in terms of tips you would give other moms, other first-time expecting moms? If you're a first-time expecting mom, let me know in the comments any other questions you have. Follow along for more realistic motherhood, the reality of things that people do not talk about or show you or teach you on social media, but it's so important because it is the reality that I was not prepared for and I did not know to expect. And it's all about managing your expectations. I forgot to say, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, if it helped you at all, because this is what helps get this video out to help other moms as well. I would really appreciate it, especially if you got this far. Like and subscribe, drop a comment so that it tells YouTube, show this to other moms to help them. I'm so passionate about helping other moms know how to prepare and not go into it totally shocked and traumatized because they didn't know. Nobody told them. See you guys.